snake's nose, she's still holding the ruby in her other hand. Maker's panties, I was so proud.
Oh,
shit. They're still holding it, sorry.
Damn, you know, when people start talking about certain games, like modern gamings and the cringe in modern gaming, I try to be as neutral as possible or understanding. When something's bad, it's just bad. But I think we can agree that the dialogue that we've seen in this recent game is very peculiar. And I get there's a whole argument with pronouns and whatnot, but for the most part, all of us are saying, or most of us agree, that if it's not affecting the game, then it doesn't really matter, does it? Until it does. And you may think, well, it's not a big deal, right? Ordinarily, I would agree until it's just straight up freaking cringe. Not only is the whole idea of forcing this whole weird way of speaking that is not common to most of the world in the game.
I don't want to lose you, girl.
I'm not a girl.
You're the smartest girl in the world.
I'm not a girl.
But girl.
Not a girl.
And I think I love you too, girl.
I'm not a girl.
It's a different universe, it's a magical world, so there can be some allowances there, right? Except that people who usually try to put this kind of speech inside of games, they always do it in a way that's really awkward and strange, as though they weren't even thinking about the dialogue, like they didn't hire actual writers, like they picked up people from off the street who care more about pronouns than they do the actual substance of the game. I'm not saying that it can't be included if it's important to the story, but it felt as though it was just there for the sake of forcing it in there. And it's not just the pronoun thing. I'm not gonna lie and say, wow, that's the only thing. That was very cringe in the way it was executed, but it's just the dialogue itself. I don't know what's going on with games and movies, and not even just movies, like shows mostly, but the freaking, what is happening with the dialogue? It's like people don't know how to write dialogue anymore.
They're still holding it, sorry.
Who are you apologizing to? And I'm sorry, what the fuck is this? All this ended up doing was making me feel more confused. And the reason why this is annoying is because the majority of the world doesn't speak like this. Maybe it's a niche emo version of what modern goth is like now, but most of the world doesn't speak like this. And most of the people who play video games aren't people who speak like this. So it's very weird. It's like you're trying to force on a new way of speaking. And like I said, it could be just special to this particular game, but we know that's not the case. Is this enough of a reason to buy the game? I'm not saying it's not. Like, one thing I do like about the game is the animations. It's stuck between this realism, but like Fortnite-y kind of graphics. And I'm not mad at it. I actually think it's pretty cool. It doesn't have that uncanny feel, except for whatever in the Boston Dynamics this is supposed to be. But I like to get a feel of games before I buy them because I don't want to spend money on something and then not like it. And honestly, the dialogue just doesn't seem very appealing to me. Like, I love choice games too, things with action, sci-fi, fantasy. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is having a game that's heavily story-oriented and character-oriented, and the characters all seem very boring.
Pulling a barb.
Oh, okay. A barv?
Tradition in the Lords of Fortune, from one of our old members, Barv. Good guy, but like most of us, his plans went sideways a lot. Bad blood among your crew's not good for morale, but there's not always time for big, drawn-out apologies. So, when one of us screws up and we know we've screwed up, we do a quick 10 to put it right. Pulling a Barv. Oh, there we go.
I'm glad the Lords of Fortune have Tarsh's back.
Oh, Tarsh isn't the first non-binary member of the Lords.
Really?
It was a little before your time, but Horlicks was one of ours.
Huh.
Oh my god. Why is this part of the discussion? I mean, what is this? Okay, maybe this is what the game is about, but like, why is this necessary? Understandably, that's going to turn off a lot of people. And the reason why it's going to turn off a lot of people is not just because you're mentioning non-binary stuff and heavily leaning to that, but people who usually speak like this or who identify as non-binary, the majority of them that represent themselves on the internet, that is all their identity is about.
This is what misgendering looks like.
I want to show you the power of giving or withholding an aspect of someone's identity from them. This is not me being selfish or too sensitive. This is not me expecting too much from those who are closest to me. And no, I can't just get over it. The pain of being referred to as someone I am not is of the worst pain I've ever felt. Not respecting someone's pronouns is an act of violence. Misgendering someone and reducing their experiences to being emotional or demanding is severely damaging. If you truly care about somebody, then show them. Love them in the way that they need to be loved. Because withholding someone's pronouns and saying you still care is like loving them with conditions. And love is not conditional.
You're going to hell.
They only care about that. They're offended about everything. I'm not saying every single person that identifies as that is like that, but you can understand why people would be like, ooh, it's one of them cultish people. Yeah, that's gonna turn me off to this game. Even though elements of it look cool, it's probably insane.
If somebody corrects you on their pronouns and they come off as very rude in doing it, even though you were none the wiser of what their pronouns actually were, just know that you're likely not the only person who has misgendered this person. And I'm not speaking about anyone in particular. I'm just saying that trans folks, when we're getting misgendered, it's not just by one person. We have to hear it from a whole plethora of people, and it gets frustrating. It's dysphoria-inducing, and it can cause us a lot of anxiety. Especially because there's so many gendered stereotypes that so many trans folks feel like they have to live up to, and try to live up to.
You know what? Anyway,
it would be a shame because if the rest of the game is genuinely fine and it looks very appealing, I think it's a pretty looking game, that's gonna pull some people out of it. It might seem immature for people to be pulled out of it for one phrase in a game that might never pop up again, but let me ask you something, and this is just a general exercise. Everyone hates the orange man, right? What if in the game they had something along the lines of, well, yeah, the orange man's kind of badass. You know, he took a bullet and he, kept... If you don't like the orange man and you really don't like him and you're sick and tired of seeing that every day in your mundane life, and then you go to escape in your little games with your non-binary stuff or whatever, and then you hear that, is that going to be enough for you to put down the game or never pick it up? Of course it will, and we know this is the case because a lot of the people who identify with people like this were mad because J.K. Rowling happened to be tied in with Harry Potter, and Hogwarts Legacy was based off of that series that she kind of had nothing to do with in terms of the game, and they not only boycotted it, which was their right to do, but bullied people off of the internet that don't even know about any of this stuff from playing it, making them feel really awful and being very hostile towards them, other people they don't know, just for playing and enjoying the game that has nothing to do with J.K. Rowling. That's how you know. So you can't really blame people who are on the other side of that spectrum that are like, wow, yeah, every day I look on the internet, every day I walk outside, depending on where you live, people are getting upset and flying off the handle because people are supposed to read their minds and know what they identify with that day, which in the grand scheme of things is a freaking first world problem. So excuse them a lot if I don't want to see that in my games. It's annoying. It's already correlated with something very toxic or with a group of people that are very toxic. Even though the majority of them are not like that, the people who are the loudest and represent that are. And it's annoying, and most people do not agree with that type of behavior and do not agree with that mindset.
I don't know what to do. I have no answers. They're kicking me out of my hotel room because I asked them to wear an N95 mask. And they said that if I wanted that, I was at the wrong hotel and I had an hour to leave. I don't know where to go. I'm almost out of money. More scans just keep getting added to the docket. I don't even have one fully functioning arm at this point. Where do I... My mom isn't answering the phone. It's not like we were estranged. I literally... Because she was super abusive, but... And I still want my mom, but I don't know what to do. Where do I go? What do I do? My doctor just called me to do an anxiety.
So yeah, I understand that this would turn them off to the game. Just like Sweet Baby Inc. If they realize that Sweet Baby Inc. is tied to a game, even if the game is decent, if you're aligning yourself with openly prejudiced people who are extremely toxic and violently pugnacious, people are not going to want to have anything to do with you aligning with those people or remotely defending them, even if you're ignorant as to why this is happening. Your game could be great, but nobody wants to give it a chance because you're aligning yourself with these freaking villains.
Bastard looked better than I did in a dress or pants. And out of them too.
Any reason you can't just apologise?
Sometimes people say, oops, sorry, and hope that fixes it. But they just want to get the whole thing over with. Trust me, I know. But pulling a barf, you sweat a little. Makes you think about it a little more. Shows the other person you mean it.
What if they mean it when they say they're sorry, though?
And that's the other reason. Some people mess up and get all dramatic. They make it about them. Oh, you know, I didn't mean it right. I'd never do that on purpose. They feel so bad about it that it's on everyone else to smooth it over and make...
So what on earth do you want from them then? They say sorry, but that's not good enough because you don't know if they really mean it. Then if they tried to explain that they really mean it and... Now that what is this dial? I'm so confused. What in the dustborn? Ew! And look at her face, or its face, or whatever the frick it's supposed to be. And what's wild to me is they're asking $60 for this game. I mean, is it worth $60? Oh, okay. See, so okay, I understand. Now looking at it, first of all, it's by Electronic Arts, and it is tagged LGBTQ+. So now I don't know, and politics apparently. I don't know if the community tags this. I thought it was because I buy most of my games from Steam now. I know, buy. It's not really buying, let's be honest. Borrowing, spending $60 for owning a game you don't actually own because you don't have the physical copy. Whatever. Yeah. I don't know if the community is the one that puts these tags or if... Wait, hold on. It says right here, popular user-defined tags for this product. Okay, so if people are tagging it LGBTQT, is there a shorter anagram for this? Jesus Christ. If people are, freaking brain man. If they're tagging it as queer, let's just say queer. If you have a problem with me using queer interchangeably with this, I'm sorry. I mean, queer is part of it. What do you want? If they're tagging it as queer, then yeah, for me personally, I don't really want that. Like, if I'm looking to a horror game and I see romance as one of the defining tags, I'm gonna be like, I like romance, don't really feel like playing a horror game that has to do with romance. I'm not into that. That's gonna turn me off. If I'm playing a game for a specific category, then yes, I'm gonna be annoyed if there's stuff in there that I'm not really interested in. So if people are tagging it as that, that must mean that a substantial part of it has to do with that, right? Otherwise, it could be down to the romantic choices. And in that sense, is it really fair to title it as queer if you have a choice? I mean, you did in Baldur's Gate as well. Wait, what's happening?
Well, hello. Looking for a cuddle? Although, you don't look entirely yourself. What's going on in that head of yours? More horrible than our day-to-day lives. Well, this I have to hear.
As you tell your story, fatigue fills your body, and you faint in a dizzy blur. You are not yourself. All control is gone.
This thing won't have you. It won't win.
Oh my god. Forgot the point I was making. God damn it, what was the point? And, wait, hold on. You know what is... Okay, I remember what I was saying now. So you have choices, just like with Mass Effect, who you're going to have romantic titification with. And I don't think it's really fair to then put the whole tag on the game as queer. That's just my opinion. However, if it's within the dialogue and sprinkled throughout the story, and for some reason the characters deem it as important, it might behoove people to tag it as that, so people know this is more leaning on the fence of what is categorized as queer. Now I have a rather mind-stimulating question. So let's say that SBI comes out with a game, because we know everything that they touch goes to shit, right? And nobody wants to support them because they have not spoken out against members of their community or members of their company that have been openly prejudiced and very horrible to people, doxing people and whatnot. These are very toxic situations. They did let one of those people go, but did they actually come out and speak out against them and hold them accountable? No, they did not. So yes, but if SBI came out with a game. Let's just say the game is a banger. Let's say this game is magical, knocks everything out of the water, and it's 10 out of 10 gameplay, story elements, all of that. Doesn't have any of those toxic pieces of dialogue in it that Dustborn did. And you're like, wow, it's actually kind of surprising. You find out that SBI is involved with this game, but the game is tight. Would you still buy the game? Would you in principle not play it because you hate SBI? Or would you support the game because the game is answering all of the concerns and giving fans everything they've ever wanted in a video game before? That's one of those, like, very hard questions to answer. Because on one hand, you don't want to support people who are, you know, like, you don't, but then there's a game that comes out and they're like, look, we've listened to you and now we're going to start making games to cater towards gamers. I know you don't like us. We've supported horrible people in the past and you still think we're horrible. But this game, though, what would you all do? I've asked myself that question because I don't want to support anything that SBI puts out or that they're remotely involved with. But at the same time, I'm not gonna lie, if there was like a game like Pal World, but it was like dragon breeding and you could real time be the dragons and then fight other dragons and monsters and stuff, and then they mixed elements of Spore in it where you evolve to have different body parts, and like I would be like, I don't think I'd pay for it, but yeah, that would be very difficult for me. What if Pal World had been backed by SBI and then people started playing it like, damn, this game is fire? Like, what if we found out that Pal World was actually backed by SBI? What would we do? You know, like, that's a difficult question. It's like if there's a freaking girl that lives next door and you know that she is a complete slut. Like, she's just sleeping with everyone and you can't stand her. She's super beautiful. She never gave you the time of day, and then now you're alone with her, and then she admits that she's always been in love with you, and now she's straddling you and unbuckling your pants, and then she's like, you know, and you're like, holy shit, okay, like, what am I supposed to, I don't like this woman, I don't like what she stands for, but now she's trying to suck me off, like, would you be like, no, I gotta stand by my morals, I don't agree with you 304s, You're fucking beautiful, like top 1% of women that are beautiful, your tits are perfect, ass is perfect, waist snatched, everything. And she looks like a freaking Viking goddess. And you're like, damn. And she wants to do everything and anything to me that I tell her to do. And she's like, anything you want me to do, I got you. I got you. Would you be like, this is Sparta, and kick her in the freaking face and be like, get away. If you breathe, your thought, get the fuck out. Or would you lie there and open up your legs and put your arms behind your head and be like, well, fuck all, this is happening? You know, it's kind of like that. I know those are like two different situations, but it's kind of the same.
What the heck would you do in a situation like that?
Worse yet, if you're loyal to a cause, like your girlfriend, she's beautiful and she's been fighting along your side, you know, just supporting your dreams. And then this woman comes and you're like, oh no, but I have a girlfriend though. And she's like super sweet and stuff. But damn, like, what would you do? How many of you would be loyal? You know? Girlfriend's better. It's one of those hard questions. Before you spew your mouth and be like, I wouldn't. Just imagine. Use your imagination and really think about it. Really think about it. I know it's No Not November, but, you know, to some of us that doesn't apply. So it is what it is. Anyways, like I said, okay, the more I look at okay, some of the instances of the cutscene looks fine. Like, this character doesn't look so bad, right? But then some of them just look bizarre. Maybe it's just the way that they're positioned in certain versions of the animation. Whatever. But yeah, I understand the concerns with this game. And for me, just the little bit that I've seen, it's pretty in some instances, but I don't think I want to pay money to play this. I don't even think I want to play it. While it looks like it brings in some cool concepts, the forced, constantly in your face, weird, cringy dialogue or superficial dialogue would really put people off when they realize it's in there, because they want to dive into a unique world where they can lose themselves into an adventure or mystery or battle without the reminders of the things that people talk about every day that they claim is overly important, and it really isn't.
Let your own pride flag fly! Not binary!
Have you heard of the LGBTQ+? Well, I am the N in plus. Yes, I'm non-binary, and I'm happy being me, so come at me, you transphobic
What the fuck?
But it's okay, because the creators of the game might not be into that. That might not be their whole thing. It could just be one very tiny part in the game that might align with those very niche perspectives. Alright, that might not be, there's nothing. Yeah, I will say, like, if someone just has, hey, I'm a girl, I'm a boy, whatever, that's not that bad. But when someone's bio reads like a social activism resume instead of a professional intro, it's understandable why people would be wondering if these specific creators are more invested in pushing personal beliefs than in crafting a universally enjoyable game. It's kind of like if I saw someone with the same bio, the Christ, Lord, Son, Crusader of the Sword of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and all. I'm like, okay, that's a bit much. And if you make a game and then it's like Dragon Age or Red Dead Redemption, and then you have the little parts sprinkled in there about, yes, but if you're shagging up with someone, you're sinning, and then there's like little scriptures sprinkled throughout there, it's gonna make me lose interest. I'm sorry. Like, especially if I'm surrounded by that every day, it's gonna be freaking annoying. It really makes you think, like, are we getting a game or just some heavy-handed social messaging wrapped up in this fantasy skin? When someone's whole identity feels like hashtags, I understand it's easy to worry that we're signing up for a lecture instead of an escape. And then you see those things. You see that these people, when they have their identity on display, that's what they're always pushing for. And then in a game, they have the same kind of messaging or the same kind of belief system in the game. Which, if it's only sprinkled throughout, I understand. But people understandably also will be annoyed about this, and you cannot really blame them. Because I'm sorry, when it comes to queer identity politics, just like religious messaging, whenever you put them at the forefront inside of movies or entertainment that you try to make, it's very cringe.
Quite literally, where Satan goes from God's BFF to a Tumblr sexy bad boy.
Saberspark has a point, though. How are you gonna make a freaking villain? You're gonna make Lucifer and make him look so fucking hot. Like, that's just, now you're just putting temptation in front of people. Like, what are you doing? Look at him. Wait, what movie is this? Okay, it's called The Mystery of the Kingdom of God. What, in the anime character? What, in the Genos? Oh my god. Rule of thumb, if you don't want people to not want to, like, I get that the devil's supposed to be alluring to people. Why are you making him as sexy as fucking possible? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, this is one of those instances where fake news would probably benefit your freaking religion, because it's like, hey girls, right, the devil is bad, but you make him look like the dude that would give them the most intense fucking of their entire life. Why would you do that to people? You see how religion is like a freaking tease? Don't do this! You can't have sex outside of marriage! And then you're like, all right, I'll just buff myself. You can't do that either, because if you think about it and you're doing it to yourself, it's like doing the real thing. And it's like, okay, well, fuck. Like, what am I supposed to do? Real talk, if I was a kid when I saw this, I'd be in trouble. Like, I'm an adult now when I'm looking at this, and I'm already in trouble. So far off topic.
Shaking your hand.
Because I have a headache.
All right, then.
Nev Gallus.
Wait! I know that name, but protocol is to wait a full week before they send anyone out to look for me. I've only been gone 3 days.
Well, the situation's changed. For the worse, unfortunately. The elven gods Elganan and Gillenane have escaped from Fen'Harel's prison.
Why do they look so strange when they speak?
I wasn't one of them. Maybe the dagger unlocks something hidden. But this is more than the stone sense I know. I hope you're right that this is a gift. I'd be heartbroken if it caused problems.
Harding, you being here is never a problem.
Really?
I don't know what I'd do if you weren't here, to be honest.
That's so sweet. Thank you. I feel the same. I'll send word to the great.
Do you, though? Do you really? One of the things that I notice, ew, what is this? Looks like his fingers are like webbed together. Gross. Okay, as I was saying, as I was looking at the playthrough of this game, it's, I'm not paying money. I just already made my mind. First of all, $60 is way too expensive for this, just in my opinion. I think games are expensive overall, but this game definitely doesn't look like it's worth $60 freaking dollars to me. Maybe $15.99 if we're being freaking generous. And another thing that I've noticed specifically with the cutscenes, because if we're doing story-oriented games, the dialogue matters. It's dialogue heavy. So if you're doing story and choices, that's supposed to be a very strong suit of the game, like I said before. But I notice in this and a lot of modern gaming, the dialogue is way too safe. Like, to the point where it feels like every character is more concerned with looking the most politically correct than being an actual real person. Everyone's so busy tiptoeing around potentially offensive things that they would say. And so you end up with these characters who sound like they're reading from some corporate diversity memo instead of, you know, talking like regular people. Real people don't carefully handcraft every word to avoid stepping on toes. They're gonna mess up. They're gonna get mad. They're gonna piss people off. They say the wrong thing. Like, I'm the queen of that. Sometimes they offend each other. There are things that you're gonna say that offend each other. And people are so concerned, or the creators are so concerned with offending each other, that they become stale. Like, the people are just a former, they're not real. They don't feel real. They're just shells of whatever they could have been. But this unpredictability, the offense, people butting heads, that's what makes people interesting and unpredictable, especially in a fictional setting. You know, you're not offending anyone. It's a game, right? In the setting of the game, you can play a bad guy or what have you. The people on the outside shouldn't feel that way, because if that's the character, then it's the character. You know, when the prettiest, sassiest character just rolls over to correct a misgendering, like I showed in the clip before, it's like, really? Like, no, there's no side-eye, no sarcasm, no tension, just an immediate reset to, oops, I'm sorry, I meant they. Come on.
Shit. They're still holding it. Sorry.
What? It would have looked way more real from her point of view, from this kind of character that she is, if she was like, okay, you okay there? You want a glass of water? And moved on, or even challenged if she's supposed to have that edge. Like, she looks like the kind of character that would. Maybe not, but I like making my characters, especially if they're a group of friends, all diverse, you know, with their thoughts as well, not just their freaking epidermis. Games are meant to create worlds where different perspectives clash, you know, where drama unfolds naturally, not where every interaction has to pass through a censor. When developers stop taking risks in dialogue, you're actually doing yourself and us, the players, a disservice. Give us some spice. Let the characters be wrong, rude, flawed, messy. That's where realism lives. That's why people love Curb Your Enthusiasm. When I was introduced to it, I was like, damn. But then it's funny because we see Larry doesn't like that and everybody around him is like that. So it's an interesting clash, but very frustrating to watch. Diversity isn't about everyone agreeing or being sanitized. It's about characters butting heads, arguing, not agreeing on things, embracing their weird quirks, and sometimes making each other mad. Honestly, those moments of friction that pull players in, that makes us care. That makes it relatable to us. And we're like, damn, we can identify with these people because they get on each other's nerves. They have differences of opinion. That's normal. We're not the freaking Borg. We're not hive-minded people. We're individuals. Now, on my video I did about pronouns, a lot of you spoke up, and I really appreciate the discussion that we were having. But one thing that you guys were all pointing out is that there's a pattern with pronouns and activism loaded bios in gaming. So I get that that's not coming from nowhere. I get where you guys are coming from, because yes, it is hard to ignore, like as this person said, that people who stack their bios with pronouns and activist hashtags are often the same kind of people who will shoehorn this kind of stuff like religion into their games. So there is a correlation. It's basically like they're broadcasting their priorities, and as 24 Frame Da Vinci 39 says, pattern recognition, if 41 of 41 people with pronouns in their bios I've interacted with their cult nut jobs, I'm just going to bet on the 42nd person being the same. That being said, this isn't my type of game. You can make 50 Dustborns and I wouldn't care. Make as many cult games as you want, just don't mess with established IPs. That being said, for me personally, I do feel like there's a difference between someone saying, hey, I'm she and her, and nothing else about that, rather than queer, sexual, gender, mancer, trans rights, BLM, blah, 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 blah. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there, and it's like, okay, if you're advertising for making games, it's not that it's particularly wrong if you believe in certain things that you want to fight for, that's great, do you. But most people don't want that at the forefront of their game. And there's a correlation with you having in your bio, you're making it seem like that's your entire identity. And so when you add stuff like that in the game, people automatically put two and two together, because that's how human minds work, and believe that the same kind of priority that you put on this type of identity is what you're going to be putting in the game. As I said, I try to meet people halfway in acknowledging that, sure, not everyone with pronoun in their bio necessarily turn their games into like a social message delivery service, but yes, often I do admit that when you see a bio that is basically an entire paragraph, there's a good chance that the game is going to lean hard on social themes that align with that. So while I get the idea of wanting to be understanding it, it's also totally fair to call out the pattern that's staring at all of us that we see every day. It's okay to wonder if they're here to make games or to make a point, because honestly, it feels like the scales have tipped pretty far into the making a point direction lately, with most of the games entertainment as a whole. So anyway, that's just my opinion. Dragon Age the Veilguard just feels like another drop in the same safe bucket that's been overflowing in the gaming industry lately. It's getting annoying. It's getting stale. People are annoyed of it. People forget that being a little bit of offensive and stepping on toes and pushing boundaries is not only okay, but it's essential for creating characters and dialogue that feel real. When you look at the best shows and movies out there, they're all packed with this risky and offensive moments, you know, like, and you don't have to all be that way. It's only certain characters that are that way. So there's a good contrast between the characters that are like, dude, that's screwed up. That's messed up. Don't do that, right? They're memorable, though, because they say things, you know, where they refuse to play it safe. Like Quentin Tarantino's dialogue, for example. It's sharp, it's bold, it doesn't tiptoe around anyone's comfort zone. His characters don't all sound like they're trying to get along and sing Kumbaya together.
Within the bounds of good taste, he must be treated as an extension of myself.
Understood, Schultz. Bettina Sugar?
Yes,
Django isn't a slave. Django is a free man, you understand? You can't treat him like any of the other niggas around here, because he ain't like any of the other niggas around here. You got it?
You want I should treat him like white folks?
No. That's not what I said.
Then I don't know what you want, Big Daddy.
Yes, I can see that.
I'm sorry, but that's some good top tier dialogue right there. That shit is funny as fuck. I'm sorry. And mind you, everybody thought it was funny. When he was like, no, that's not what I said. The delivery, the dialogue. I mean, Quentin Tarantino is very good at that. And I gotta give credit to my husband as well, because he's introduced me to his movies and stuff. They're freaking hilarious. They're freaking hilarious. His comedy is spot on. That is how you do comedy. That is how you do racial comedy. Some people think if you just throw out an insult, you're like, well, it's a joke. No, it's the way you deliver it. There's a reason why some comedians can get away with saying certain things and others it just falls flat. People can understand when something is meant to be a joke, when it's not done in malice. But that's one of my favorite scenes, because it's just so, like, it's such a realistic exchange. They feel like real people. And you can just read, like, all the comments here. Like, people are just praising this scene because it's freaking funny. He said no with a quick, right? At the end of the day, not everyone's gonna agree. I understand that. That's perfectly fine. But games and entertainment in general needs to get back at taking risks, man. Offensiveness in and of itself is not harmful. It's actually a very powerful tool for character depth and realism and building a freaking backbone and thick skin. You know, as long as no one's getting physically hurt. People are hungry for dialogue that hits a nerve, feels raw and real. Veilguard, like so many games right now, needs to shed that armor of political correction and caution and remember what it's like to simply let characters speak like actual flawed and yes, sometimes offensive humans. That's one of the things I love about my character Godzilla, or my version of my fan fiction version of Godzilla. He's a freaking asshole. Like, and people hate it. But yet they like the stories. But that's how, like, all the characters are not like that. It would be very boring. For me personally, even doing those shows, for him to be like, yes, did I hurt your feelings? I'm so very sorry. What should we do? You offended me. I offended you, but you offended me too. Oh no, did I really? Yeah, let's go have some tea. Tea's offensive. That's like cultural appropriation. Oh my God, is it really? What should we have instead? Let's have stones. Well, actually, that's cultural appropriation too, because this nation over here that we don't know a fuck about, they use stones in their burial rituals. Oh shit, let's breathe some air. That's cultural appropriation. Like, come on. Like, let's be real here. Come on, stop. It's a freaking game. It's a freaking... Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. Have fun eating your freaking thin-ass pancake.
We'll warn you right now that shortly after launch, Dragon Age is probably going to produce the most annoying discourse of the year with those guys regarding a particular questline. I've heard rumblings about this questline as well. Hearing in the IGN review that the reviewer said that BioWare specifically asked that they not show the character or talk about the character in question, that to me, I mean, like, it's not even in question. Like, they were hiding away a character that they thought would get blowback. Like, they're not allowed to show it in the review, the character or the questline, which is interesting. So I do think when the game launches, there will be some interesting revelations probably when people get their hands on that questline. Because why would they need to hide away the questline? Like, there's something the IGN person said specifically they were not allowed to show or mention who the quest was about.
Like, are y'all okay? Or